everybody in the internet world. My name is Dan Estrada, and this is the inaugural episode of the Money Match podcast. As I mentioned, I am Dan Estrada, and I'm here with my co-host, Lance. Why don't you introduce yourself a little bit?
What up, world? It's your boy, Lance, a.k.a. The Infinite. I'm the president of Money Match Gaming, and I do president things. How about that?
You know what? And that's great. We need a president. You need someone strong who can handle the burden of the people, of the money matchers. Well, if you're listening to this, you probably have some idea who Money Match Gaming is, whether it be from Instagram or our Smash contest that we hold weekly on Twitch. If you're new to Money Match, thank you for listening, and I'm glad you chose this random podcast to start. Today, we're going to just kind of give you an introduction on ourselves and talk about our favorite games. In the future of this podcast, we plan on bringing you current events as well as just who we are and bring you other guests who like to talk about video games, anime, movie, music, the culture, whatever. We'll talk about it, and I'd love to hear feedback from everybody out there. Anything you'd like to hear, I'd gladly talk about it. But like I said, today we're going to talk about our favorite games growing up, all time, whatever it may be. And we'll start with Lance. Lance, so what's your favorite game of all time, would you say?
Hands down, Halo. Now, I feel like this is...
So the whole series?
The
whole
trilogy.
Series or the game specifically? Okay, the first three. Gotcha.
Out of those games, Halo 2 is probably my favorite. There are several reasons why, but, I mean, let's just get into it, man. Let's just get into it. So, what makes Halo so great? For me, my opinion, but, I really think it should pan into, like, everybody's general opinion because it literally is a work of art. It literally is a work of art. It's the first game, the very first game, that I ever looked at holistically and actually said, this is art. So how people get fancy about their art pieces and their Mona Lisas and their cathedrals and stuff, it really felt like that for me.
What made you feel like that? Was it just the look of it, or just the feel of it, or just everything, like the whole literally package?
The combination of everything.
That's cool.
And I was gonna break it down into little pieces and stuff, but the biggest thing is everything in it just works. It works. There's not a single person who picks up the game and actually complains about the mechanics, how it functions,
right?
What it looks like, what it did for the time,
right?
How it did multiplayer. No complaints there. It's always, there's a shield and people don't die fast enough.
Right.
Those were the complaints. Those were the only complaints I ever got.
I agree. Granted, I never, growing up, I had Halo 2. I bought an Xbox, the original giant Xbox for the Halo 2 that I got for Christmas. The year the Xbox 360 came out, so you see how late to the party I was. And it was awesome. It was a really cool game. I was terrible at it. I am god awful at like any FPS games, but I loved the idea of it, and I loved the community behind it, and just how it really revolutionized the way we play online gaming today. Like how we do online gaming today was a lot in part to Halo Combat Evolved and Halo 2 and how they ran their multiplayer systems. So I think that's a really cool tidbit that have come from that series itself.
Yeah, for sure. And so it was just one of those games to where it's like you pick up the pistol and you go, it has a purpose. This is what this gun's good at, And there are other guns in the game that serve that kind of function. Hey, look, this is a mid-range weapon. It's gonna win mid-range. Period. If you fight mid-range with this weapon, 80% of the time you're going to win.
Right.
If you have the shotgun within these areas, within these spaces, you will dominate. Period. There's no exception about it. I mean, and then like the biggest thing, and the very biggest thing for me, other than those specific things that just make it beautiful, the music, the functionality of it, the mechanics, the maps, and all that other stuff. It's one of the first games to where it's like I could obviously see skill. And for me, that is so important. Like I hated Call of Duty because Call of Duty was one of those games. It's like a general arcade game where you get dropped in an arena and then you look down lanes and you shoot your gun.
Yep.
And that's what I hated about it. It's just like
there's no real balance. that was an issue I had with the Call of Duty games. There's no real balance in the guns or anything where there's certain few that just shine above the rest. Whereas in the Halo series, pretty much everybody had their own certain playstyle. Like I was a battle rifle guy, and I know a lot of people who were battle rifle guys because that gun was awesome. But like I had a friend who was all about the plasma weapons and like the plasma sniper and stuff like that. So there was a way better balancing within the weapons in the Halo series than Call of Duty ever even could try to do.
Right, and it had such a even flavor.
Mm-hmm.
So you could have the vehicle maps, then you had the infantry maps to where it's like, and then like the vehicles, it just felt right. It just felt right. Like Battlefield for me is way
Mm-hmm.
too overwhelming.
Yeah, it's too
They don't.
big, too open.
Yeah, it's like you're running out in the open, random things are happening, the aircrafts are killing you, like you can't hide in buildings because the buildings collapse or, they can shoot through them or they can break it down to some degree, and it just felt way too overwhelming, it
Mm-hmm.
required so much teamwork, which I like, but I just don't think that in the randomness that you end up being in, as in you join a lobby with 28 other people that you don't know, there's only so much teamwork that you can build from that.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a limit to the amount of teamwork that you can actually have in those situations. So it was the beginning of full packaged games for me.
Right. And
Everything before it was super limited
Mhm.
and super two dimensional. That was just the case.
Yeah, and
So
going off of it's a full package game. Whereas today you'll see a lot of multiplayer games released with just multiplayer. I mean, take a look at Overwatch. Great game, but that's really all it is. There's no PvE. Halo had the great multiplayer. It also had this engaging story that people would play and play and play on all sorts of different difficulties and collect all these skulls, which would change the course of the way the game is played. And I think that's really awesome that a lot of games really should still kind of try and do that. It feels good when you have that complete game package. For me this year, Titanfall 2 kind of did that. Titanfall 2 had a great story and really good multiplayer. Whereas most of the first-person shooters these days, you'll get one or the other. You won't get both. So that's one thing that I'll say about the Halo series that I think is really top-notch.
yeah, and I don't know. I think I've run the full gamut of what it is that I was looking to say about Halo. It's just
Mm-hmm.
I just can't express how complete it was for me.
Right.
And it was a game that me and my friends could play forever. That was what we played when we really wanted to have a competition or, a test of skill.
Now,
You know.
did you buy the re-release of the collectors, like the Master Chief collection for the Xbox One, or do you not have an Xbox One? Or
Oh, well, I didn't buy it for Xbox One,
Mm-hmm.
but I definitely bought it for the Xbox 360,
Okay.
it's still in its case,
Mm-hmm.
simply because in general I'm a very social player. I really don't like going into solo queues and dropping into random lobbies and stuff and not having any conversation.
It's not as fun, and
Yeah,
it takes away the community aspect for a lot of games. It's always good to have either someone to play with, and I mean, granted, sometimes when you join those solo queues and you talk to people, you end up meeting great people that you play with forever. Like one of my best friends on Xbox, I met him through Overwatch random queues, and now we were just playing Diablo 3 together. So clearly, we're still on a good page there. But yeah, no, the from what I was told, I don't know much about the re-releases of the Master Chief collection, but I had heard pretty unfavorable things about them. I don't know if it was just like the servers were really acting up when it first came out or whatnot, but yeah, I was a little surprised that I didn't hear as positive things as I expected to, because those are such beloved games.
well, what I think it was it was released
Mm-hmm.
without some of its basic functions.
Uh,
So, like, I know with the 360, and I think it was just Halo One. I don't even think it was the whole collection. It was
mm-hmm.
just Halo One, and it just wasn't as smooth. It had like a dedicated server, blah 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
With the old ones, the system naturally flowed into it, but you had to do a lot of weird things to like play with your friends. Like to join a lobby and all that stuff. It wasn't quite the same because it was still working off of some old technology, is what I think it was. And so you had to do some weird things. And like split screening, like I had to go on YouTube and like listen to somebody talk about it, and then there was like something special that I had to do. It was just
It's
you can't.
complicated, convoluted,
Yeah, like you can't do that.
unnecessary. Yeah, that's
You
fair.
know, like part of the greatness of it was so easy, and it was one of the things that polished multiplayer arena games.
Right.
It was one of the first games that actually did that very well. There was no complications. It was like the first time you hit A to join a group. You went into a lobby. You knew what was going on. You knew what you were voting for. You knew how to press this. You knew how to change everything you needed to
It's
change.
true.
There was no thought,
It's
zero
true.
thought with that.
Like
You
I said,
entered, you played.
if it wasn't for Halo, I do not think that online multiplayer on the consoles today would be what it is. I think it really did revolutionize that whole console matchmaking system, as well as kind of really be the first thing that could give the console players like a community, something to call home, when prior to that point it was like really PC dominant. And it's still PC dominant, don't get me wrong, but now there's a lot larger console communities that exist, when at the time there really was none. So that's another really cool thing about that game and those games here. So what's your like favorite setup in those games? Like, what's your favorite map? What's your favorite gun? What do you got? What do you go to?
Well, my favorite map is definitely from Halo 1. It was called Longest, if you ever played that.
The Longest.
It was two long hallways.
Okay.
It was just two long hallways. It had like an overshield and a camouflage buff in the center. It had like a shotgun, and then it had all mid-range weapons and the pistol. And it was like literally my favorite map, hands down. It's just what I excelled at, and it's what I liked, because it was there's no vehicles. It's not that I hate vehicles. It just, because I only played it 8 players,
Right.
It just never felt like there was enough players.
Well, and on
to
top
use
of
them
it,
properly.
vehicles always give someone an unfair advantage. Like, the guy in a vehicle was always an asshole. He was always like,
Right.
I'm flying around in a Banshee and not even trying and getting all the kills. Like, fuck you, guy. Like, I don't like that. Don't do that.
Right. And then they did things in 2 to make that stuff
Right.
better. But but like.
But that
by
was just
far,
that was like a straight up arena. It was to the point. You knew what you were doing. You knew what you were getting into.
you
no
drop
place
down,
to hide.
You could angle grenades. You could bounce them off things. There was just enough space to where you could have these quick and easy battles and stuff, and people would just go at it. So it was like you dropped in, and the map wasn't so small, because like I think this is what the problem is with most first person shooters, or any game that you spawn in an arena and then clash, is that you spawn too close. It's like
Right.
you should like if your map's so small that people can spawn behind you because of the way the spawn system works. You die, you spawn here. There's too many enemies close to this side, so I'll spawn you on the other side. And then you spawn behind somebody.
Yeah.
That's bad. It's
Yeah.
terrible.
Right.
It's just terrible. That just means your map's too small.
Yeah.
And any time that you get dropped right into a map and instantly start shooting your gun, that should be red flags. And it's like
exactly.
Dude, I hate it. I fucking hate it.
That's a huge problem. Well, it was a huge problem, at least with the older Call of Duty games, where the spawn didn't really make any sense. There was no like set spawn places. They would just spawn you wherever. So there would be a lot of times where you spawn like in a firefight already going on. You're just like, oh, this is great. I'm just gonna.
Well,
die
I've
here.
spawned the same time with an enemy right next to me.
Yeah.
And if you're just so lucky that you start running before him,
Yeah.
guess what happens? You get
You get shot in the back of the head. Yeah.
And you're like, that was cool. That was great.
That was
what
exactly
I mean?
what I thought was gonna happen there.
Yeah, and it's just trash. It's
No,
just
it's
trash.
frustrating.
I can't
I
tell you how
understand
much I
that.
hate that game.
Yeah.
And like part of it's map design. What I mean? I think that's what made Halo so good again. It's just like that you could have safe spawns. The
Right.
maps were big enough to have safe spawns.
Yeah,
And
they
then
were
created-
small enough to engage competition, but big enough to allow people to kind of like you said, safe spawns. Have a place where
Yeah.
you can spawn and not have to worry about getting shot in the head instantly.
And like again, and they were big enough and had enough variety that it encouraged a lot of teamwork. Okay, he has a battle rifle, so you have to let him lead in these mid-range fights, and then you support. So you let him unleash his clip, and then you advance. And there was a lot of unspoken things that happened in Halo because of the way the game was designed. And
Mm-hmm.
it was just brilliantly designed. But I think we've run the course on Halo.
All right.
That's pretty much it. And we can
It's
go
listen.
into
I know
Dan's
I know
great
you
game.
could talk about Halo forever. So, but yeah. All right. So my favorite game, or game series, kind of going like off of what you did, is the Borderlands series. More specifically, Borderlands 2. But that game series right there really kind of changed the way I looked at first-person shooters for the most part. I mean, I guess it's not a traditional first-person shooter competitively, but I prior to playing the first Borderlands, I really was not into first-person shooters. I had Counter-Strike Source that I'd pretend that I was good at, and I was not. I was terrible, and I would never get any kills. I only pretended I was good at because I saw like a YouTube video at the time, and I was like, these guys are good, I want to be good too. So there's Counter-Strike Source, there's the Halo games that all my friends would play, and I'd be the poser that I'd be like, yeah, let's play some Halo, being last place on the team. But Borderlands, being that it wasn't necessarily a competitive game, as a cooperative RPG style, it kind of changed the way I looked at the first-person shooter genre, and it brought a lot more enjoyment for me, and that's why I find myself playing way more first-person shooters than I used to. But the first Borderlands, I liked. I never I loved it initially, and then I kind of like died off in interest in it, and I never really went back to it too much. And part of the reason why is because the map system really fucked me up. There was no real mini map. There was like this bar that you had to use to guide yourself around, and I would constantly get lost. So I was just get frustrated, and I turned that game off eventually. But then one year for Christmas, I got Borderlands 2 and Assassin's Creed 3. And I was like, oh man, I'm so excited. I'm going to play Assassin's Creed 3. This game's going to be awesome. And I played that game for an hour and wanted to kill myself. And I was like, this game is so boring. I hope Borderlands is not bad. And I put Borderlands in, and I swear to God, no other game went into my console for like 3 months. Like, I basically returned Assassin's Creed 3 that day and was just like, this was the wrong Christmas present. Borderlands 2 wins.
Why?
And it was just so much fun, man. Like, I played it, at first I played it by myself as Zero, who is like the assassin's character, and I had it spec'd so that I could just essentially continuously slash people in stealth and never die, and never leave stealth, and just, it was amazing, and it was so much fun. And I played through the story one time by myself, and then I went back to school. I was living in Ohio at the time, going to school, and I was living with my buddy Keith. And I brought it back, and I was like, hey, we should play this game. So it ended up being that for months, we would play that game until he fell asleep. Like, we would just be playing, and at a certain point, his character would start walking into a corner, and I'd just be like, all right, it's time to stop. Keith's falling asleep. He's going to just, we just got to stop doing this. But it was a fun game to play together. The story is hysterical and really, really enjoyable and has so much replayability. Like, I've leveled, I guess I've played through the story, I would say, about 12 times now, total, which is pretty crazy, seeing as I barely play through most games once. So to play through that story 12 times is like wild, and really says how fun I find that game. And I still go and play that game every couple weeks or so. I'll just be like, you know what? It's time to play some Borderlands 2, and I'll just log on and shoot shit for like an hour, and I'll just feel happy. And I think because there's no real like balance in the game, that you can kind of like, you feel overpowered, but you're like happy about it. Like, yeah, I could take on the world right now, and it's okay. Like, it doesn't like, sometimes being too overpowered or being too underpowered really bothers me. But in that game, being overpowered just makes me feel great about myself.
I never felt overpowered. Like, and mind you,
really?
I always played that game on higher difficulties. But,
okay.
I mean, I have a few gripes with Borderlands 2, though.
Well, see, like, all right, so Borderlands, the way the difficulties work is that you are pretty much in set difficulties until you play through the game. So you start with normal, and once you beat normal, you unlock True Vault Hunter, which is like New Game Plus. And then once you beat True Vault Hunter, you unlock Ultimate Vault Hunter. And that's like where it gets really hard. But I played as the Siren, and I spec'd it so that her special ability would do slag when I used it, and slag makes everything do double damage. So I just essentially slag everything and then kill everything real quick because I'm doing double damage to all the targets, which is what made me so overpowered. But I could, like, depending on what class you play, it makes the game slightly less enjoyable, more enjoyable. And then you always have to, like, with any RPG, you kind of have to learn the way the classes play before you get a true take on it, you know?
Well, I mean, I have that problem that you explained earlier, to where I don't usually play things through.
Mm-hmm.
There are several reasons why. It's because generally that you get to a point to where you've done everything the game has to offer, and I think that's RTS's biggest problem is they don't design it in a way that allows you to continually expand on things, and they don't provide enough variety for you to be entertained that entire time. And I don't think that was necessarily the problem with this game. This game, I think this happens with all these types of open world games. You know, so Skyrim, World of Warcraft. Although I didn't play too much of World of Warcraft. I think.
Oh, I could go on for hours about World of Warcraft. That's a
I think
story
I've
for
played
another
it
day.
maybe twice, and I never left the initial place.
I probably put in like hundreds of days, like game time into that fucking game. Like almost a year of my life is probably spent in that character. In like the 5 years.
And see, like, so what ends up happening is you have one engaging story. Obviously, it's a little bit different for World of Warcraft because they have installments that basically tell a whole nother story. But I think, what kills it for me is, the insignificant side quests. They don't mean anything. They don't make me feel good. There's no cinematic trailers. There's no...
For just open world
general,
games in general?
You know what I mean? I'm going to...
Yeah. And they're distracting. They're really distracting. Side quests are the most distracting thing ever, and it's what leads me to, like, almost, like you said, almost never beat open world games, because I'm like, all right, I'm going to do these side quests, and after a certain point, I forget about the main
Exactly. That's the problem. And so, it's because that all the side quests have no character. They just have no character. Go kill this boss at this time. Okay, great.
See, and that is the one thing I will say on the opposite for Borderlands, whereas I think those side quests have amazing characters, because you have side quests where it's like it's essentially like go find the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and get their pizza, and I'm like, yeah, I'm involved in that. Or in like Borderlands pre-sequel, there's a quest where you get these things and you like these balls and you have to throw them at monsters to catch them, like Pokemon. So because a lot of the Borderlands things are kind of
have so much humor,
drenched in pop culture references, I just eat them up. I'm just like, oh my god, this is
like,
so amazing.
I don't know, like it's not that I didn't experience that when I was playing with Borderlands 2 and stuff like that. But like they still lack the character that the main story has. And like, mind you, they are side quests, and I will respect them as side quests.
Right, yeah.
But I don't think that means that they can't put any real effort into it. So, when you do Rat Trap's quests,
right.
I like Rat Trap. I like him as a character. I like the things he does.
Claptrap?
Yeah, Claptrap. My bad.
No, you're good.
So I truly enjoy his character. And, I remember going to his pizza parties and stuff, and kind of doing those types of things, which were, they had a little bit of humor.
Inviting everybody to his birthday, but no one wants to go.
Right.
Sad.
But,
sad.
It like at the end of it, I was like, oh, okay, that's that. And then you don't get very much experience.
A lot of the side quests in Borderlands 2 don't necessarily, or any of the Borderlands games, don't really feel like you're being rewarded super well. However, every now and again you'll find that one that just gives like a dope ass reward, and you're just like, man, I'm really happy I did that. Like in the pre-sequel, there's this one stupid ass quest where you have to collect 50 like common quality weapons, which is a pain in the ass because I never want that shit in my bags, and it just takes up all my bag space. But when you finally do collect all 50 of them, you are rewarded with a really good legendary what is it? It's an oxygen mask. So I try and do that quest every time, but at the same time, it's just a fucking frustrating ass quest because I have to constantly go back and forth between this one place. But it's got a good reward for me, at least. But yeah, I understand what you're saying.
It's terrible, bro. It's terrible. It shouldn't be that way. You know what I mean? Like, they have... This is why. And I think that there's a level of difficulty that goes with this. Now, with Money Match Gaming, I hope to get to a point to where I actually can create games. Maybe not on a technical and mechanical level, but a conceptual level.
Mm-hmm.
That's tends to be what I'm good at. And there are plenty of people who would write stories for these games for free.
Mm-hmm.
For free.
Oh
There
yeah,
are
dude.
even people who would create cinematics for it for free.
Mm-hmm.
And if not for free, really treat because they're just real big fans. There's so many games that
Mm-hmm.
people want to mod. And I
Right.
think people should just, games in general should just hey, set up a system to where people can set up their own side quests and they can create special places on
Right.
the map for it where they can create characters and they can have general templates to where people can edit and blah 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 and then allow people to do it. That way you don't get this half-assed, well, let's go send them to kill 50 people and then when
Mm-hmm.
they're done make a joke. Like that's what it felt like.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like, okay, well, we want to go make them go to this part of the map, kill 50 people, and then make jokes about killing people. And I mean, like Borderlands had a lot of that. And I
Yep.
mean, like
I mean, there's
there's a fair amount of funny
there's
stuff about it.
one quest in Borderlands where the quest is just straight up shoot me in the face, and you shoot the guy who gives it to you in the face, and he quietly says thank you and rewards
Right.
you with a
And it's
review.
like it's humor.
Yeah.
Whoever did those things is obviously funny and has a good sense of humor, but like that's it. That's
Yeah.
the joke.
But see,
Like,
to me, I think one of the reasons I gravitate towards Borderlands 2 so much and like all the Borderlands series is the humor. Being that, I love comedy, I love working in the field of comedy, trying to write comedy, trying to do stand up, whatever that may be. The writing in Borderlands made me be like, "Oh shit, dude, like I would love to do something like this. Like this sounds like so much fun." But
see, like, and I just won't accept that excuse because that's a cop out. That's a cop out, Dan. It's such a cop out.
listen,
Like, we just got done talking about Halo, and the only
what?
complaint that people really honestly had, that people in general continually made, was there's a shield, bro, and they don't die instantly when I shoot them. Those
Yeah,
were
but I
the
mean,
only complaints I got.
to
And now we're going to
each their own, man.
now we're going to Borderlands.
People could find complaints. To, you complaining about the quest doesn't necessarily mean that I feel the same way about the quest.
You did say yes, they can be lackluster. The
some
rewards,
of them,
some
yeah,
of the
but
stories.
that's the same way with any game with quests. Anytime you play an RPG, you're not gonna have all the best quests in the world. 90% of them are probably gonna suck. I just played through Final Fantasy 15. Fucking love that game, but a lot of the quests were like, "Hey, go kill these mobs and collect the steak from them. Then they bring the steak back here so we can cook them." It's just the nature of an RPG.
That is trash, and that's a cop out. That's somebody did it bad and was successful at doing it bad.
But, like,
so
if-
everybody
if-
thinks it's okay to do it bad.
But the thing
And
is, like,
that's-
if they
that's-
ever came out with like but that's just how you do. That's just how an RPG plays, man.
No,
it's like
no,
if they ever
it's
came
not.
out with like Halo.
It's not.
Yes, if they ever came out with a Halo MMO or a Halo RPG, they would definitely have that mechanic in there. And they even do with a lot of like multiplayer shit,
the
where it's like a
status
multiplayer
quo.
quest.
The status quo does not justify the legitimacy of your claim. It just doesn't. That is the status quo statement. Hey, everybody does it, therefore.
No, but what I'm saying is like you're not every quest is gonna be a home run. It's not. But the one in Borderlands, I think you're being a little bit hard on Borderlands. I think Borderlands is probably better with the writing in their side quests than a lot of other games. Whereas like World of Warcraft, 90% of the quests are, hey, go kill these 4 things, whatever. At least these ones kind of give you a lot of reason behind it.
They give you some backstory, but
Yeah.
then you missed kind of what I said then, because like I want a full encompassing thing that
Where you
draws
can-
me into the story,
Yeah.
and so.
And that's what the
like-
story, but that's what the story quest is for. That's why they're called side quests, The story, if you just play Borderlands and just go through the story quest, I know it's impossible to do because at a certain point you'll need to do the side quest just to like stay on level with the story quests. But the story quest, if you just play through that story as a whole, it's amazing. It is great. There's really nothing I would change about it, especially if you include the pre-sequel storyline where you're learning about this character, Handsome Jack, and how he thinks he's the hero, and it's his transition from being like the biggest egomaniac hero ever into finally like I don't think he's ever realizes that he's the villain. But then seeing his transition, because everybody on the outside realizes he's the villain, everyone's seeing that he's making these terrible choices, and then being able to play with the guy, thinking like, oh man, this is my boy right here, seeing him go to the dark side, and then in the next game, really seeing him take the dark side to another level when you're seeing that, he's incorporating his daughter into his like weird experiments and shit like that. And just the fact that he doesn't give a fuck about anyone. Like, he really doesn't. He will blow up a fucking planet just because it's there. And then when you first meet him, he's like super trying to... It's cool. I think that he's one of the most interesting characters in games. I think that he's got a great storyline, and I think the Borderlands story really, is just really fun to play through. I understand what you're saying.
I'm about to poop on you. All right?
Okay,
so
go ahead.
there is a game that I feel like does do it right, that it has some open world stuff, and that would be Zelda Ocarina of Time.
Okay.
Every side quest that you tend to do goes well with the storyline. Now, mind you, I think a lot of that simply because the main storyline feels a lot like a side quest. It's not a complete project, and maybe that's because it's lacking so much character, but the consistency with the way the game functions is the same. And I think that's important to me because, then the side quests aren't boring because, the story itself is kind of stale. Right. A lot of the Zelda games tend to be that way. It's because Zelda doesn't talk. Neither does Link or like, I think Ganon, well, technically you never hear, how many voice actors are in Zelda?
In the old ones, there were never really voice acting. I think this Zelda that just came out, Breath of the Wind, is the first one to feature voice acting. So usually it's just text bubbles, but Link never talks, like you said.
Yeah, I don't think Zelda ever talks,
No, Zelda does. She does.
She does?
Link is the only character that doesn't talk, which is, but that's a very prominent, like, whatchamacallit, like RPG trope, the main character that doesn't talk. You see it in Pokemon, you see it in the Persona games, you see it in Zelda, you see it in a lot of different, even in, actually no, in Borderlands they talk a little bit.
They talk.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's a staple of
RPGs. No,
yes,
but in a lot of them.
Yes, but it's not a staple. You can't say it's
No. But I didn't say it was a staple. I said it was, what was the word I used? It doesn't matter. Regardless, it is a reoccurring thing that does happen in a lot of RPGs. A trope. That was what I said. A trope. But it does. You see that a lot, especially with Nintendo games. Nintendo RPGs tend to have that silent main character a lot.
It sucks the life out of the game. It really does. When I think back at it, I really think that's a bad thing. I think that's how you develop stories. You know, like you develop stories in that way. And it's just by having characters. Actually having real characters. So it's yeah. I think
teach their own. Yeah. Like I said, there's games of both sides that I like. There's games with the silent character, a la Red from Pokemon Red and Blue, who never talks, and even to this day when they feature him in the series, anytime you approach him, he just goes ... which is awesome. I think that's a cool little nod. But then, there's other times where I want my characters to really be characters. Like, let's talk about Final Fantasy 15, where you have those 4 main characters, and you really feel like you're part of their group while playing through that game, which is awesome. It's such a cool feeling. I felt like I was friends with these guys.
See, I hate that you went from there to here, to where it's like, it's clearly has an effect. Of actually feeling a part of the game, actually having people that speak and do all those different things.
And like I said, that it works both ways. There's games where I like that, and there's games where it's sometimes too much.
Where you just accept it for what it is.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Status quo.
Listen, it's not status quo. It's just being able to accept something and appreciate it for what it is, than thinking too heavily on it and nitpicking it and stuff like that. Like, to me, if I can find fun value, I guess, in like a game or a CD, like anything, it's fun for me. It's cool. Someone else might be like, that's not necessarily how I feel. I don't give a fuck. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, for example, Kesha. Kesha has this album called Animal, her first album. I love it. I think it's like one of the coolest pop albums of all time. A lot of people are like, Dan, that's a weird ass take. Why do you love that Kesha album so much? I'm like, yo, This shit is a fun album. It doesn't make a lick for sense, and I fucking have a great time listening to it, and I like it. So that's just me in a nutshell, man. I just like liking things.
We work different. I
Yeah.
can't accept that answer. I'm just
Well, I mean, you don't have to.
I slowly get a little angry on the inside, because I think there is something that could be considered real art and should be respected on all levels, even if I don't like it. And
Right.
a lot of the classical music I feel like is one of those situations to where it's like you can tell they're genius. It's like regardless of whether or not you like it, when you listen to it and then you look at the notes and like how they're aligned and how much time it must have took to do that. And I think that like when a lot of these situations that you're describing, it just feels like a lack of effort. It just feels you can't see the genius in it. And there are plenty of stupid things in the world that you can see the genius
I'm pretty sure you can see the genius in Borderlands. I mean, it's one of the top-selling games. It's won Game of the Year multiple times. I mean, just because you can't appreciate it the way I can doesn't mean you can't see the genius.
No, I love the game. I love the game. I never said I didn't like the game. I love the game. Me and my brother played it all the time. I played Siren. I was working my way up to the Slack thing. I just didn't finish it. And the large reason why is because, me and my friends' schedules never line up right. And, there were so few people in my group that actually enjoyed the game. There were lots of things I liked about the game. I told you the side quest about hanging out with Claptrap and doing all those different things. I like their kinematic things when they would introduce people and the way they introduced people. There's plenty of things I enjoyed about the game. And it has its own flavor. I think that they could have expanded on it and they could have been better at these different things. There was it was kind of plain. It's really, really plain, And I mean, like, obviously that's easy. And this is what I'm talking about. Like, it's plain because it's easy to do. That way they can replicate it and they can expand the game as much as they need to expand it to do what they're trying to do. But I don't like that. It sounds like a shortcut to me, and it's just like, you can make interesting characters different, and I mean, like, that's just what I'm feeling, it's just like when I'm like, okay, I'm in their shoes and this is what I'm seeing and this is what they must have did to make these different things happen, like, and that's just how I see it, it's just like they took some situations and they were like, oh, let's recycle some things. And nobody likes recycling. Nobody. So it's like when you play those Final Fantasy games and you're fighting, a caterpillar enemy at the beginning, you never see that caterpillar enemy, and then he comes later in the game recolored. Like, that has to piss you off. It pisses everybody off. And it's kind of like, you could have gave me a different monster. It can't be that hard.
But at the same time, there's a lot of time and effort goes into programming, designing, creating video games that sometimes a different colored thing, it's fine. It does its purpose. It's the same kind of monster. It's just a different, like, magical type. So it has different resistance. It has different attacks. To me, it doesn't bother me as much. But I think, honestly, I'll cut it short here. Because we're at a good length for this episode, and I think this is a good episode for the audience to kind of get a feel for who we both are, especially if we're going to be on this podcast a lot, because it shows. Well, I mean, just like this past debate has been really good to kind of express to who we are to everybody, where how we feel about things and how we judge things on a different level, and I think that'll be a good thing going forward, that we have very different similar viewpoints, but different ways of attacking them, essentially. Sometimes, not always. Sometimes we have different viewpoints, but that's to be expected with two different people.
To end the story, though,
yeah.
Borderlands is definitely a good game. Don't get me wrong there. It's definitely a good game. Maybe the story for you was very captivating, but I know 90% of the people who played it didn't pay attention to it. And that's it's cool. It's cool that you like it, but I mean, I think that speaks bounds. Like, part of the reason I love Halo so much is like nobody says that about Master Chief. Nobody's like, that Master Chief guy, he fucking sucks. Never.
Honestly, don't know the stories well enough to formulate an opinion.
Well, you don't need to know the stories. You don't disrespect the character, though. You're not like,
No, I respect him for his. Him being an icon, the same way I respect, in my opinion, Handsome Jack for being one of the best video game villains that have ever existed.
We can make arguments. That could be the next one.
Listen, we could talk about it. We'll talk about it at some point. Like I said, we'll end it here. Do you have anything you'd like to plug? Anything you'd like to tell the listener about to check out? Or
All right. Well, I mean, I would just say this. Everybody, we're Money Match Gaming. We promote gaming culture. Currently, we feature tons of different things: music, art. Dan Estrada here, makes a lot of funny things. Anything gaming related. And if that's your thing, check us out, man. We have an Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. We hold weekly events, both King of the Hill for Smash and Smash Weekly, which is our traditional tournament on Sunday. And we give away money. We're
Yeah.
trying to build a community and bring people together. And I hope these types of things will get you there.
Yep. And for me, I'm going to plug pretty much the same thing. We're Money Match Gaming. I'm a part of it. You can follow me on Instagram, Dan Estrada Comedy. There will be these segments called Ask Estrada. If there's anything you'd like to ask me personally and see me answered in one of those excerpts or even on one of these podcasts, feel free to comment on the post there, direct message me there. Any way you want to get into contact with me, you could tweet me at Dan Estrada. I'd love to hear from you. And I really do want to thank you if you did take the time out to listen to this episode. I know you could have done anything else for the past half hour, and you probably were while you were listening to this, but I appreciate you sort of paying attention, and I hope, you don't, I hope you like your games. I hope you have a favorite game. I'd love to hear what your favorite game is, and, maybe we'll talk about it sometime. In the future, we're going to be talking a lot about current events as far as video games, music, movies, art, any of that thing is concerned. We will be talking about it. I'm Dan again. This is Lance signing off. Have a great week, day, month, hour, minute, second. Have it all, because you deserve it. Take care, guys. Thanks for listening.